In this video, you will learn the 7 steps you should be considering when creating a photography portfolio that not only looks great, but converts to paying clients as well. And in steps 6 and 7, I'll be covering some marketing secrets that I don't see anybody really talking about when it comes to photography portfolios. Coming from a marketing background myself, I've been messing with my portfolio over the years to get it as optimized as possible. And in fact, oftentimes when a client books a session with me, they often reference my portfolio as the thing that really pushed them to contact me because they like the photos in my portfolio. For those new to my channel, my name's Nate, and I'm a published photography author, speaker, and professional part-time photographer. And welcome to my photography channel, where I make videos on photography tips and insights, composition, editing, gear, and the business side of things. It has been shown that all it takes is 1/10 of a second to form an impression, whether it's impression of you as a photographer in person or you as a photographer online. And one of the best ways to create a strong first impression as a photographer is to have a solid photography portfolio. Think of your photography portfolio almost like an elevator pitch that you're giving to a potential client without actually speaking to them. You only have a short window to get everything you want to say across to that person before they zone out or lose interest. With that being said, let's dive into how to create a photography portfolio that converts, how to build a photography portfolio that looks great, and some marketing secrets that'll let you know whether your portfolio is working as intended or not. What is the goal of a photography portfolio? It can be easy to often overlook this question and just start putting photos in your portfolio. I believe the goal of every photography portfolio is to quickly highlight who you are as a photographer in terms of consistency and style. Let's take a closer look at those two words, style and consistency. When it comes to style, every photographer and artist for that matter has their own style. Example styles could be bright and airy, moody, black and white, cinematic, etc. As we'll touch on later, you'll want to have your portfolio follow a certain style and be consistent in that style in order for your potential clients to get a sense of who you are as a photographer and the images you produce. When it comes to consistency, this means consistency in style, as we just mentioned, consistency in image quality, consistency in composition, and consistency in overall editing as well. Before diving into what a photography portfolio should include, I quickly wanted to touch on the subject of whether photographers even need a portfolio. I've seen this question be asked oftentimes, and what I think they're referring to is whether you should have your portfolio on a website or not. But in general terms, you should always have a portfolio of some sorts. But as mentioned, I think they're referring specifically to only having their portfolio on social media. While this is a way you can go, I don't think this is the best way to go for 3 reasons. First, as I'll show later, if you have a portfolio on your website, then it's easier to track certain metrics such as average time on page to get a certain idea of whether or not your portfolio is resonating with the viewers of that page. Second, if your portfolio is on your social media channels, the potential client could get influenced by likes, followers, or comments negatively, taken away from the actual image itself. For example, if you don't have many followers or a certain image that does not get many likes, then the viewer could be focusing on those vanity metrics instead of the actual quality of the image. Third, I believe having a portfolio on a website is just a lot more professional, as your contact page will already be on your website, you can control the colors and styles of your website, etc. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get business through social media. I'm just saying that you should have a portfolio on a website as well. Now that we've covered that, let's dive into how to actually create and build your photography portfolio. When it comes to creating the photography portfolio, there are 7 steps you should take into consideration in order to create the best portfolio possible. The first step when it comes to building a photography portfolio is to figure out your medium. What I mean by medium is the platform. For example, certain mediums that you often see portfolios on include social media platforms such as Instagram, Flickr, Unsplash, Tumblr, etc. Another medium, and the one I suggest, is a website. But there are also different ways to create a website, such as coding your own from scratch, or using a CMS, which stands for Content Management System, such as WordPress, Squarespace, or Wix. Personally, I highly recommend going the WordPress route, and this is actually what I built my own photography website on. In terms of customization and ability to go outside the box in terms of SEO and technical capabilities, if you choose to eventually have courses or a blog that drives traffic on your website, then I recommend WordPress. The only caveat with WordPress is it does have a slightly higher learning curve, where it will take a little bit longer to learn, but once you learn it, which probably takes maybe like a week or so to really dive into WordPress, once you learn it though, you're kind of in free roam mode and not bound by any restrictions that these other CMSs implement. But if you don't really care to have a blog or courses or any content that you plan on driving traffic to through SEO, then I think going the Squarespace or Wix route is perfectly fine. As previously mentioned, you can have your portfolio on many mediums such as Instagram, Flickr, etc. But I do just recommend that you also have it on a website. So once you figure out what mediums you want your portfolio to exist on, it's time to figure out your style and ideal client. In marketing, there's a process that's called positioning your product or service, and this means identifying your target audience and creating an image of your product or service that fills an unfilled need of your target audience. Think of it like a lock and key. As photographers, our target audience are potential clients who see our photos, and our product or service are our photos and knowledge of photography. With that being said, we need to create an image of our product, which is our photos, that fills an unfilled need in the minds of our target audience, whether that's having the photos we take of them help them land that job they're looking for, find a potential partner, or just improve their overall personal brand image. We create this image of our product or service, which is essentially the photos in our portfolio, to essentially tell the client that the photos that I take are the ones you're looking for. We do this by having a style to our portfolio based on our ideal target client. If you don't know who your ideal target client or customer is, then you need to do more market research and self-analysis into the type of photographer you want to be. For example, if you are a wedding photographer, then your style may be more on the lighter, airy side with brighter, sharp-looking images. If you're a headshot photographer for actors, then your style may consist of studio light setups with a focus on sharpness and clarity. Whoever you want your ideal client to be, your style needs to match that. If you're still having trouble, simply search for photographers who service the same clients you want and take a look at their style. I'm not saying to copy their style because every photographer has their own style, but I'm saying to take an overall look at their style. Is it black and white, moody, more bright, film-like with lots of grain, etc. For example, taking two popular examples of Peter Hurley, who is a headshot photographer, and Jessica Kobasi, which is a portrait photographer. Take a look at their style and the clients that they service. Are these the same types of clients you want to service, and is this the same style that you want to have? Take inspiration from them, but don't copy them. Once you have a strong understanding of your style and who you want your ideal client to be, then it's time to move on to the next step, which involves picking the best photos. There's a saying that your photography portfolio is only as good as your worst photo. What this means is that you only want to present your best work on your portfolio. If there is an image on your portfolio that you aren't really proud of or you don't think is your best work, but you want to include it, I highly recommend leaving it out. Put yourself in the shoes of the viewer. Imagine they're scrolling through your portfolio, loving all the images, and they land on 1 to 2 photos that are semi-blurry, or let's just say, not the best. They could think to themselves, well, maybe those will be the kind of photos this photographer will take of me. You don't want them thinking that, so it's only best to highlight and showcase your best work. As photographers, when we're out on a shoot, we know that not every photo we take is award-winning or necessarily our best photo. That's often why, many photographers, such as even myself, take multiple shots in certain poses just in case some of them are blurry. But I digress. Pretty much the main point is, you want to put your best foot forward with your portfolio. The fourth step when it comes to creating a strong photography portfolio is to be consistent with your images. This ties into the previous 2 steps of style and putting your best foot forward with your portfolio. In terms of style, it's important to have a consistent style throughout your portfolio and not have one photo be a film-like grainy photo and the next one being a high contrast, overly saturated photo. If this is the case, the viewer and potential client might get confused in terms of what style and what image they'd receive from you, so they might not end up booking you. If you do wish to showcase different styles, then I recommend having different sections in your portfolio with a heading that states the different styles so the viewer of your portfolio knows it's intentional and that you're actually a versatile photographer. This way too, if a client calls you or has questions, you can even ask them which style they prefer. In terms of consistency with putting your best images, this one's pretty straightforward and covered in the previous section. You want to be consistent with putting only your best work on your portfolio. The fifth step when it comes to creating a great photography portfolio is to ask for feedback. This can be one of the most nervous parts when it comes to building your portfolio, but it's often important to ask friends, family, or similar niche photographers what they think about your portfolio in order to get solid feedback. The important part with this is that you'll want to find people who will be objective and not really sugarcoat anything. So it's also kind of a problem asking friends, family, or family members what they think about your portfolio, because they might try to sugarcoat things to make you feel good about yourself. So it's really important to emphasize to them that you'll want them to be as objective and honest as possible, or else you won't improve as a photographer yourself. Questions you'll want to ask them include, what style does my photography portfolio give off? Based on the response, you'll want to ask yourself, is this the style you want to give off with your portfolio? Another question is, what emotions do you have when looking at my photography portfolio? Based on the response, ask yourself, are these the emotions you want people to have when viewing your portfolio? A third question could be, what's your favorite photo on my portfolio? Based on the response, you could ask yourself, are people all agreeing on one favorite photo? Ask them why it's their favorite, and you might want to analyze what you did in that photo to have others like it so much. On the opposite end, you could ask, what's your least favorite photo on my portfolio? Based on the response, you could ask yourself, are people all agreeing on a least favorite photo? Maybe you should remove that one from your portfolio. Next, related to navigation, you'll want to ask them, is it easy to navigate my portfolio through desktop view? You'll want to know that your portfolio is easily accessible through desktops. On the similar end, you'll also want to ask them if it's easy to navigate your portfolio through mobile view. You'll also want to note that your portfolio is easily accessible through mobile phones as well, as this is how many people navigate the web these days. The next questions related to page speed include, does my portfolio load fast for you on desktop? You'll want to ensure your portfolio loads quickly for users on desktop. And in the similar vein, you'll also want to make sure that it loads fast on mobile. Based on some of the responses to these questions, you may need to update your portfolio. Once you do so, then ask for feedback again. If, for example, a lot of people were saying that they didn't like a certain photo, maybe take it out, replace it with another one, and then ask for feedback again. And keep iterating through that loop until the general consensus around your portfolio is positive. And as you may have noticed, some of these last two questions revolve around UX and page speed, which leads us into our next tips. The sixth step to having a great photography portfolio is to ensure you have good portfolio UX, which stands for user experience, and that the portfolio loads fairly quickly to your viewers. Coming from a marketing background, I've really seen how a fast loading page can outperform a slow loading page in terms of, conversions, trials, signups, or whatever conversion you're really trying to make with your website. And in this case, as photographers, booking a session. In fact, website conversion rates drop by an average of 2.11% with each additional second of load time, between seconds 0 to 9. In our case as photographers, a conversion would mean landing on our portfolio page and then deciding whether or not to contact us to book a session. If you're wondering how to view the page speed of your own portfolio, then there's two methods that you can use. The first method is to just do your own visual test by going to the page and seeing if it takes a while for the images to show up or if you see any loading slowly. If we want to get more technical, the second method involves running your portfolio page through a page speed tester such as Google PageSpeed Insights. If you find that your portfolio is loading too slow, then the biggest cause is the images. So being photographers, our websites are very heavily image based, and if your images are uploaded with big file sizes, then it can really slow down your website. To optimize this, the solution is to use a lossless image compression tool. This will essentially make the file size on your images smaller without losing much quality in the image. I recommend using an online tool such as Optimizilla and Compressor.io. In order to use it, just go to the website, upload your image on the site, then do a lossless compression, and then re-download the newly compressed image, then upload that to your site, replacing the old one. Here's an example of my portfolio when I run it through the page speed test. As you can see, the performance score is high and well optimized. The seventh and final step is to add some analytics platform to your website. You may not have seen other guides or videos really talking about this part, but I believe it's the most important because if you don't really know or understand how your portfolio is doing, then you can't really make optimizations in either way to continue improving it. And you might find that, or you might not even realize that there's something not necessarily wrong with your portfolio, but that there's something kind of hindering people from contacting you based on what's on your portfolio. Many photographers get the part of creating a portfolio, but many fall short when it comes to actually understanding how it's performing backed by data. There are many analytics platforms out there, especially if you're using a CMS. There's many analytics dashboards and tools built into them, such as with Squarespace, Wix, or WordPress. The one I use and recommend is Google Analytics, which is the industry standard when it comes to getting free analytics data on your website. I won't be diving into how to set up an account and connect Google Analytics to your website, as there are many great tutorials out there. But once you have it connected, the most valuable metrics you'll want to pay attention to include average session duration on your portfolio page for both desktop and mobile. Here's a screenshot taken from my portfolio page in Google Analytics. As you can see, I have both desktop and mobile view on here, and the average time on the page is around a minute, which is pretty great because I only have about 10 images on my portfolio. So that lets me know that a lot of people are looking at my portfolio and looking at all the images. This number will give you a better idea of how long people are staying on your page and viewing your portfolio. If you're finding that the number is really short, then you may want to go back to step number 5 in terms of asking for feedback and ask or just determine, maybe the style's off, the consistency's off, and maybe that's why not many, or the view time, the session duration on your portfolio is pretty short, because it's just confusing users. Another reason is that perhaps your images are loading really slow and users are getting frustrated and leaving, or as mentioned, the style and consistency is off, so users are getting confused and leaving as well. And although we are artists, it's important to look at the business side of things in order to understand how our work is performing. And in the future, I may create a guide on other metrics to look at, but for right now, just take a look at average session duration. In conclusion, having a strong photography portfolio is often what stands between a regular viewer on your portfolio versus somebody who books a session. And there are many key steps when it comes to not only building, but maintaining your portfolio. With that being said, I hope you took away something new and valuable from this video, and I hope you implement some of the tips I recommended. Thanks for watching.